We got you guys around though for another demo.
Absolutely.
Axiom Verge. Tom, this is your project you've been working on. Tell us all about it.
So yeah, Axiom Verge is, it's like you said, it's my own project. It started off as a hobby about 5 years ago. I just had the urge to make, a game that would combine all the aspects of my favorite games. So it's basically an action adventure or Metroidvania, if you will. Fairly lengthy, where you explore a labyrinthine world and collect items and go back to previous places to figure out how they're going to work and allow you to bypass obstacles.
Excellent. Let's hop into it right now. Any of these controllers?
The controller doesn't seem to want to work here.
We'll get one of our technical monkeys to hop in on that one.
Live TV. Oh no.
Is this live? This isn't live, is it? I've been scratching my nuts all morning. Is this live? Oh God, I've been fired already. But you work at a studio yourself, right? This is like a pet project you're working on the side. Is that right?
It was, yeah. So for many years, I worked for Petroglyph Games, making RTS games like the recently launched Grey Goo.
Grey Goo,
and this was something I just did after work or on the weekend or whatever. And it was like that for, I'll say, about 4 years.
Wow.
And then after trying to promote the game and going to IndieCade and meeting with Sony, it eventually got picked up by their pub fund program.
Oh, right.
So that let me basically switch off and start working on this full time.
Excellent.
Rather than as a hobby. So.
Was it a much more satisfying type of project to do, to be able to work on something for your own? Because presumably at Petroglyph you were one part of a much wider machine.
Yeah. So there, I was an engineer on a team that would vary in size from like 50 to 100 based on
what stage of
on the kind of
or?
game or what we were working on, and that's actually very rewarding. That's it's an awesome thing to do, for your 40-hour week. But yeah, this is definitely, it's better to work on your own thing for sure. You get to decide what you're going to do. How it's going to look. So
excellent. Eric Tay, our man on the street here, is plugging in USB controllers like it's going out of business, and he's done it.
Nice.
Eric Tay.
Now we can see the game.
Perfect work. Don't worry. Best thing is we'll just we'll just hop straight into it now. We can do what we want. Axiom Verge. Yes, please tell me all about it. The word Metroidvania gets thrown around quite a lot at the moment. You're in that sort of realm.
Yeah, so I would say when I first started this, there wasn't this Metroidvania renaissance going on, because that was 5 years ago, and a lot changes in that time. So I wasn't sitting there like, oh, I got to get in on this Metroidvania fad. That's the thing now. I was totally just thinking I want to have fun.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be the zeitgeist, I guess, at the moment. So that worked out.
But you've been giving this game a lot of TLC, as opposed to a lot of other games which have been sort of catching on to this. What about Axiom Verge do you think is sets it apart from other games in this sort of weird subgenre? It's been recreated.
So first of all, I really just tried to make it a good action exploration type of game, and that's the most important thing. Then on top of that, I started layering some meta elements. There's the glitching element.
Yes.
Where you can glitch enemies, and each enemy will have a kind of different reaction to your glitching. So they might, once they're glitched, be able to heal you, or they might be able to break through a wall, or do a variety of other things. So that's in there. That's, I would say, kind of integrated into your action exploration.
One of the things I love about this, the first time I've seen it, and we've been seeing it for a long time now, is the art style is just tremendous. It's incredible. It's gorgeous.
Well, thank you very much.
Tell us what the impetus for this was. Were you trying to hark back to 8-bit, 16-bit, rather, or was this sort of what you could do within your means, as it were? Do you have another artist working on this, or are you doing it yourself?
No, it's all by me, and I would say. I'm actually, despite having been a programmer, I was actually trained as an animator. So
oh, really?
Even before I was, programming strategy games, I was a 3D animator. So I worked on NFL Street and Tiger Woods and sorted other games, Crash Nitro Kart.
I can see where you pulled your influences in for Axiom Verge.
So You know, this is more like doing the thing that I thought would be fun for me to do.
Excellent.
Nailing down the specific art style. Kind of, it involved a few months of basically putting together giant PSDs. I would do stuff like take screen captures of various old 8-bit games. Like I really liked Rygar and Batman for the NES and Bionic Commando, Shatterhand, and I would actually put screenshots like next to each other.
Oh, really?
And kind of like build, you know, a faux like world.
Just out of elements
just,
of all of
Just to kind of decide how I thought it should look in the end. And so it eventually kind of settled down onto this where you have the discrete blocks rather than a continuous environment. And that was, you know, came about organically, I'd say, as I was putting things together in my head.
Yeah, I guess that's a wonderful thing about working on a project over so many years, that you can allow yourself to take the time to let those ideas sort of gestate and manifest themselves.
Yeah.
So tell us about the sort of, I guess, the progression of this. Is this a game where you're going to be playing for like a number of hours straight through? Is there roguelike elements to it? Like, what's it going to be like when you pick up Axiom Verge for the first time?
So for the first time, in terms of like overall meta progression, like the overall map layout, it's very much like Super Metroid or Symphony of the Night, that kind of thing. It's a large map. The game is fairly long. People have been taking you know, between 10 and like 16 hours to complete the game the first time, and that's if you explore. I think you could probably, you know, maybe your first time you might take 8 hours if you really don't explore. And if you try to 100% it, that's going to take you much longer, obviously.
So is the type of thing where you're unlocking new abilities and going back into older areas and finding, like, going through new gates and whatnot?
Yeah, and you'd asked about roguelike elements. So this isn't quite like Chasm, where the entire game is roguelike, but there are some areas that will change for each playthrough, where it's an optional kind of side area where there's some additional items and weapons that you can find that won't be the same the next time you play through. And so, you know, it's minor. I'd say about 15% of the game map is going to be those.
But that's an element that you're going to keep meeting over and over again.
Right.
That's fantastic. What, in terms of difficulty, where do you lie with this? Because you can kind of, you can go on either side of the scale with a game like this, especially with that type of length. You can make it quite a nice, easy experience for people just to bound through, or you can, you know, go super crazy, Super Meat Boy style, and make it impossible.
I would say there's two difficulty levels. There's normal and there's the hard. The normal is, I call it pretty like average. You know, it's not Dark Souls level difficulty, but it's also not super easy. You know, part of it is because the game is quite long, so you don't want to have the game be really long and be too difficult on the normal setting. The hard setting, I went about that by making the game too hard for me to beat and then scaling it back, you know, in increments until I could beat it.
Yeah.
So I expect that there's going to be people definitely that say this is way too easy, even on hard. But I think for the casual gamer, it's going to come out to, you know, the typical gamer will find this is pretty difficult, but hopefully manageable once they've gotten it down.
Yeah. Tell us a bit about some of the narrative stuff that's happening in this as well.
So yeah, there is a backstory. It's, you know, involves this character is a scientist, and he suffers this cataclysmic accident in his lab, after which he wakes up in the strange world you're looking at right now.
Pretty strange. This thing right here is pretty strange.
So, you know, much of the fiction is all about discovering this world, trying to figure out why he's here, what are these monsters that are, you know, dropping bombs on him, and basically what's going on. So it's a bit like a mystery in that regard.
Are you expecting people to do multiple playthroughs of this? You know, with a game that's 10 to 16 hours, it seems like it's not really a requirement, but are there any elements of like New Game Plus stuff, or do you think that people will like enjoy second playthroughs once they've figured out the sort of the wider loop of the game?
I think definitely there's there isn't a New Game Plus per se. There is the hard mode. There's also a speedrun mode, which is purely for the competitive gamer or for the gamer that doesn't care for the story. There's kind of a tradition in Metroidvania games that the story is told by the visuals. So if you're not into dialogue, you put in that mode, it'll skip by any cutscenes.
Oh wow, really?
Those won't be included in your timer, and you get an on-screen HUD showing you how fast you're going, that kind of thing. So, and with that mode, that's all about figuring out the fastest way to go. There's a lot of places where you can bypass an item, and it might actually be faster if you don't get it, or you might find that item, by its virtue of its powers, makes things easier.
Yeah.
So, I'm expecting that there's going to be replayability in terms of that.
That's going to be a fun experience for you when it's out pretty soon, right? It's out in like
yeah, it comes out March 31st.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, on PS4.
And are you looking forward to watching, presumably, streams of people just playing it and figuring stuff out?
Yeah, I can't wait. The PS4 share feature was kind of like a godsend for this kind of game, because if most of the competitions, they feature Super Metroid and players that have just like mastered every nuance of that game. And when I see those, like the awesome games done quick competitions, I always dreamed like that would be so great if it was my game that people were playing. So I tried my best to facilitate that.
That's excellent. Do you think that might have changed elements of your design as you were playing with it? Just like appealing to that audience, because that's kind of again 5 years ago there weren't all of these people streaming games, and certainly not on consoles.
Yeah, and there are some things I did. I'm lucky enough to have an acquaintance with a speedrunner in Las Vegas he's actually a Shovel Knight speedrunner, but he's I said, like, can you take a look at my game and like give me some thoughts, and he said, like, okay, yeah, from like a speedrunner's perspective, a good thing to do would be to like make it more clear which enemies are going to drop more health.
Right.
It's better if it's established that this one kind of enemy always gets more health, because the other ones, a speedrunner might actually just jump right through the enemy, take the damage, because it's faster to get to the other side taking a hit than it is to trying to kill it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of nuance like that in my first initial iteration of the game I didn't consider. But then afterwards, it's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So
that's great. It's good to have a speedrunner in your pocket.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming in and showing us Axiom Verge. As you said, it's out 31st of this month on PlayStation 4. It's coming out to other platforms. Is there going to be Vita crossplay and anything, that sort of stuff?
Yeah. So yeah, the Vita unfortunately is going to be coming later, but it will be coming, and that will be cross-buy.
Yeah. Oh,
so
nice.
When Axiom Verge comes out on the 31st, it's going to be part of for PlayStation Plus gamers, it'll be 10% off.
Brilliant.
So you can get your Vita version 10% off by getting it then.
Excellent.
And then
will you cross-save?
Cross-save, we are not sure yet.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a cross your fingers
Yeah,
cross-save.
as a big Vita PS4 fan, that'd be great. If you can get that done, that'd be...
Yeah, I want to do that too, yeah. So hopefully there will be a patch for the PS4. Once I have the Vita version out and I know how it works, I can get them cross-compatible that way.
But excellent, yeah, end of the month. Fantastic. Yep.